Here we are. Here we are. This is the Sean P. Experience on YouTube. I keep telling y'all, I got something special lined up for y'all every week. We got phenomenal guests coming on, and I have something very unique this time. I love this brother. Followed the man for years on different platforms, and for him to say yes to come on my show, I'm honored. I am humbled. I have Dr. Daniel Black in the building. Come on, man. Give it up to my brother. Y'all watching this, give some comments, give some emojis. Give my man some love, man. Let him feel the love, right?
Hey, man, I appreciate that. I really, really, really do appreciate that. Thank you
Yes, sir.
tremendously.
Yes, sir. Let me do my professional, formal introduction first, and then we go into my personal introduction, right?
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We have Dr. Daniel Black is an author, professor of African American Studies at Clark Atlanta University. Shout out to Clark. I went to Clark for a little while. His books
Yeah,
include his books include The Coming, Perfect Peace, and They Tell Me of a Home. He is the winner of the Distinguished Writer Award of the Middle Atlantic Writers Association and has been nominated for the Townsend Prize for Fiction, the Ernest J. Gaines Award, and the Georgia Author of the Year Award. He was raised in Blackwell, Arkansas, and currently lives in the ATL. Peace up, A-Town down. What's going on, Dr. Black?
what's happening, man? Thank you tremendously for having me, brother Sean, and thank you for finding value in my work. I always jump at an opportunity to talk about my work, particularly in the Black community and among our people. So I'm just really honored to be here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The chat lighting up already. I got to give a little caveat. Our sister Billy Nicole was in the building, Billy Edwards, right, in the chat. And she saw you live weeks ago over there in Tennessee. She had a book signed and everything and took pictures with you and everything like that. So that's our sister in the chat.
Ah, yay. That's fantastic.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. So, Dr. Black, I love to ask my guests this question. This show is called Sitting with the Griots, the storytellers, right? The Jali. You are the most griot person probably could ever be on this platform. So the question is always, how do you feel about the moniker of being a modern griot? Do you feel a lot of weight and responsibility carrying that moniker, or do you not even think about it in your day-to-day practice?
I do not think about it. It never crosses my mind because really I study the Griot tradition, right? The Jali tradition. And really, technically, I'm not a Griot. I'm certainly one who writes, and I'm certainly one who story tells. But a Griot is a little more complicated in the traditional African sense, right? And so really, that's not my particular gift area directly. But I do I certainly do Griot kind of work, and again, I do storytelling. But yes, I'm not one who generally thinks about that. And even as a writer, I don't really think about what it even means to live life as a writer. I just write stories and I pray that they transform lives. I don't try to think of a story that people are going to like or think of stories that I think people are going to applaud in a particular kind of way. Um, I'm one who just tries to write a really good story, and I just believe that it'll do its own work.
I'd be remiss for not mentioning this, talking about Clark Atlanta University. Yesterday, Dr. Littleton, she saw the flyer for the show and she said, Sean, tell Dr. Black. I said the comment just told me to pieces and I could not read it again.
Oh my gosh.
But she wanted me to tell you that.
I appreciate that. Dr. Littleton is an amazing, amazing Black woman. And
yes,
I'm her mentor and I was her dissertation advisor and all of that. Oh, yeah. So, she and I are very close.
See, and she was a guest on my show about 3 years ago. We did a Black History program together on Facebook,
okay.
on YouTube.
Okay.
Years ago. So that's a connection, Dr. Littleton. Yeah.
Okay.
So when it comes to writing Becoming, I love to ask the origin story to these books. What was that light bulb moment that struck you? Like, you know what? I want to write the transatlantic slave trade and all of these details and things like that. What was the moment that made you feel the need to do that? Is the question.
I think probably happened years and years ago, but probably 25 years ago or a little more when I was in graduate school. I was just fascinated by the Middle Passage or the Ma'afa in terms of a historical moment. I was fascinated that our people were able to survive that. I was fascinated by stories that I read, especially in slave narratives, et cetera, about our time on the water. I was fascinated by our relationship to water. I'm fascinated by the ways in which they threw our ancestors overboard into the water. I'm fascinated by those who were able to survive that and made it onto this land. I'm fascinated that they forced us to dance on these ships. I just think the Middle Passage is really the defining moment of what it means to be Black in the diaspora. And I actually believe that there are certain experiences that come out of those of us in the diaspora, like jazz, like gospel music, that you cannot get without the Middle Passage. This is why you don't find jazz in Africa as an art form, or which is why you don't find the gospel music equivalent in Africa, because one has to have traversed the Middle Passage in order to create that.
That's a powerful answer right there, Doctor. That's powerful. So let me ask you a question. The research for this book.
Oh God.
Because you have some minute, fine details in this book. The language, the people, the names, places, culture, practices.
Years of research. Years and years. Researching names, ships, names of ships, ethnic groups, ethnic physical traits, geography, maritime history, the length of the Middle Passage journeys, what happened to them, how many folks did they throw overboard, what was the effect of the Middle Passage on the very ecology of the ocean itself. I mean, just it goes on and on. I've literally researched for years and years and years before I started writing this book.
So a normal follow-up question I ask my guests, everything can't make it into the book. It'd be a huge book. So I love to ask, like, what's not in the book that you wish was in the book? What's on the cutting room floor, if you will?
What's on the what?
The cutting room floor. You know, in movies they have the cutting room. You know, they call it the cutting room floor.
Like what didn't make it into the text?
Yes, sir. That you wish was there.
Their actual time in the stall. Their time in the slave castles on the coast of West Africa. Wow. Sometimes I wish I would have put a little more of that, or that they might have started counting their days as they were waiting for the next ship to come.
So let's go with that. You mentioned numbers a lot in this book.
Yes.
About the amount of days as the days going by on the ship.
Yes.
The amount of days when they're in the stalls, the amount of days, the days and the numbers and the amount of people as it's dwindling down. Give us the importance of the mathematics on that when you did that.
I'm doing a little numerology of the counting. I was also imagining how might a person start trying to create memories and start trying to create a map if you were kidnapped, if you were taken somewhere. And one of the things I think I would do is I would become enormously aware of time. And time significations and days passing. Like if somebody kidnapped me, I think the thing I'd be most aware of is the amount of days, the amount of time that I've been gone, that I've been away. Because if I ever tried to run away, that would let me know how long it would take me to get back.
That's key. Because at a certain point, we're not going to spoil the book, but at a certain point, it becomes like they're figuring like we can't go back.
Right.
It's been so much,
it's
so great.
Long. That's right.
We're not going.
There is no return. That's right.
The point of no return. Right.
That's right.
No return. I want to ask you also. You mentioned in the beginning, the first page, you list particular people and their skill set.
Right.
What they were in the community. The warriors. You had scholars. You got all kinds of people.
Healers, right.
So tell us the significance of naming it piece by piece like that. Because in school, most times, we only thinking they went and took slaves. They captured slaves.
Right. And that's very important.
Because breaking down.
Yes. Because most of us here in the West, we're not taught that they enslaved kingdoms and empires. We're taught that they enslaved Africans who were just chilling outside, who had just built homes in the middle of nowhere, quote unquote, or just chilling, in the forest or chilling in the plains, not who were part of organized societies, who were part of, again, kingdoms where there were governors and there were lawyers and there were teachers and there were farmers, right? And I think it's important for us to understand that that enslaving our ancestors, they enslaved nations of people, right? Not just human beings. And sometimes most people didn't even agree to that, but nations of people who had loves and land and commitment, right? And familial ties, etc. And who had names that had meanings, and those meanings meant something. And I think when you understand that, what people begin to see is then stealing these people away was not just taking some human beings from one place in the world to another. It was literally destroying societies and destroying ancient kingdoms, right? I just think that's extremely, extremely, extremely important to know and important to understand. And that these people weren't just chilling in what people think of as villages, right? Little huts of people, right? But that we come from people where there might have been 10 governors among the community, and there were dancers and there were master weavers. So we come from very skilled people, and that's very important to understand too, Sean, because when they brought us, we brought those skills with us.
Yes. Yes.
Like
Yes.
we weren't able to bring anything material, but Africa is in us, not on us.
That's right. That's right. That's right. I'm thinking about like the Griot for an example of one of many trades. A person most times, if I'm correct, you tell me, they're groomed, they're raised
Right.
to be a warrior or the Griot or the basket weaving.
Right.
In your life, doing 10,000 hours learning.
Oh, absolutely.
So them capturing is totally breaking apart that whole, you're rupturing.
That's
everything.
absolutely true. And to bring only those between roughly 17 and 30, right? To bring only those people, ooh, God, is to bring, in some ways, the immaturity of Africa to America. You didn't bring Africa's best. You didn't bring Africa's genius. You didn't bring Africa's greatest wisdom. You didn't bring Africa's greatest insight. You brought Africa's juvenile self. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's extremely important for us.
You also pinpoint. See, I'm trying to tell people my whole past few weeks, I'm bragging on this book like, man, you got to get it. You got to get it. Because you talk about, they didn't bring the healers on purpose.
That's
they
right.
didn't bring certain people knowing if we have those, we can heal ourselves.
That's right.
We can regenerate. We
That's
can
right.
overcome. This is all strategically done over
That's
time.
Right. That's right.
Talk about that a little bit about them, not who they didn't bring.
That's right. And they didn't bring them for all kinds of reasons. They didn't bring the most seasoned ones because those folks had gone through all the initiations, which means they had the greatest insight, the greatest wisdom. It was going to be hell to keep a people enslaved if you brought their greatest wisdom chest, right? So they intentionally left those people. They did not bring children, and they did not bring children in many instances because, yes, they were not in their prime in terms of working, but also they didn't bring children so that they could breed children in us themselves, so they could replace our children with, if you will, their bloodline. And so they could disturb and disrupt bloodlines, right? And so I think what's so important, as gets pointed out in the coming, these were folks who were just old enough to remember Africa, but too young to carry its excellence.
Yes, sir. I want to do a pairing with that. Nothing is coincidence. So by supposed to happen like this, I'm reading Philip B. Williams' Hours right now. It's a new release, Hours. But the main character in Hours, she does a lot of conjuring and she does a lot of things, but she has a problem with her memory. And I'm reading in the comment when they talked about people were taken so early, they had to complete all the rituals, they had to complete all the rites.
And all the initiations. Yeah.
For the higher level of mastery, they talk about that. When I saw that in Hours, I was like, wait, she can't do all the spells and all the magic because she didn't go through it all. She didn't.
That's right. That's
right.
And see, every African community had some sort of initiation process, the means by which young people learn the complicated spiritual systems of their people. all communities had that, but it took half a lifetime to learn it. So what most of 17, 19-year-olds would know is they knew some of it by that point, but they were clear that there were levels of initiation that they had not accessed, they had not known, they never got a chance to experience it. And what they knew is that those levels held knowledge for them, from which they were robbed. And that if they had known those upper levels of knowledge, they would have had a different kind of response, and it would have had a different kind of revenge, if you will, for slavery and those who perpetuated it. But without it, they were absolutely, positively limited.
Right. So let's go into the griots. You have griots, in my opinion, all throughout this book. The power of the storytellers, the prophets, the seers, those that can hear, those that knew. And they were giving little hints and clues, but typical human nature, we're ignoring the elderly, old, we're like, all right, OG, we hear all of that. Talk about the power of the storytellers and those traditions and those griots, man.
This story is full of griots, absolutely. And what most people never really think about is when they enslaved our ancestors, most of these Europeans certainly didn't know it, but they had to enslave at least some griots too. Right? Which means griots came to America. Now, the question, and one of the things we've not done really well yet is, what did they transmute into? Like on the American plantation, who were the griots? I don't mean just everybody had a story to tell. No, who were the griots who had been trained to be griots? Right? What form did they take on the plantation, which we might not have been thinking about because we knew them in the traditional form in Africa? They would not have been able to serve that function as in the right hand of the king. They wouldn't have been able to serve that function on the plantation. But what might they have looked like on the plantation? Who would they have been? And I think that's what we've got to do. We have to do more work to find out who were the particular Jali on the American plantation, and what stories, not just what stories did they tell, but what signs did they leave on these plantations for us to find later? Did they carve their names? Did they carve into tree bark? See, if a griot is going to leave a sign to a people that he or she had been here. Our job is to be able to find those signs. Even now, I believe some of those signs still exist. We just don't know what they are, so we don't know what we're looking for.
That's right. That'd be a great book within itself. There's a book about that. I'm buying that. I'm reading that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a phenomenal story right there. So let's talk about the power of names, Dr. Black. Because through the whole book, you're mentioning specific names and what those names meant, those attributes that the person carried for the name.
Right.
And let's pair that with today's time where we kind of so far from that tradition. You're a professor in the classroom. People in their charge is anything, with no real meaning, nothing to live up to. Talk about the power of a name, Dr. Black.
Well, of course, we come from people who understand that without a name, you have no existence. Your name announces to you, and it announces to the community why you chose to come to the planet. The name is the reminder to us of your decision to come to this planet, right? And every time we call your name, you are supposed to be reminded of the role you're supposed to play among us, right? Which is why name is so important, which is why Kunta Kinte was so hell-bent on not being Toby. Because to give up Kunta Kinte means he would have to give up his life's purpose. And who the hell is Toby? What does Toby mean? What does Toby mean I'm supposed to do? Toby meant nothing. So for all practical purposes, to give up a destiny for nothingness. Which is why they almost had to kill him to do it. But what ends up happening is on this ship, these first generation Africans, they know their names.
Yeah.
They come with their names, and their names mean things. And now they have to negotiate, what will this name mean in the land of bondage? How will I still be Timmy Tope? But of course, we see in the end of this book that that Temitope, Monifa, Efia, Babatunde, that even in the middle of the ocean, even once they get to America, they are still who they were.
Yes.
You don't get to renegotiate your destiny because you change geography. If you were sent to, hey, God, if you were sent to heal in Africa, you were sent to heal in Asia. You were sent to heal in Canada. You were sent to heal in the Caribbean.
Yes,
Healing
sir.
is what you still must do. The nature of that healing and what you heal with might change, but the destiny will not.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate Alex Haley roots in the beginning of the book, and they go into the whole tradition of the naming process. Like, it was a long process to be named.
Yes.
They had a council of people coming together for this name. It wasn't like the parents just say, "Oh, you gonna be this." Like, no, there's a council of people. There's a naming ceremony and the whole nine.
That's right.
Like,
that's right.
I think we lost a lot whenever we lost that.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. It's true. And the question of purpose, the question of life force, the question of life energy, the question of why did you decide to be born? That question is answered in the meaning of your name. Your name answers that question. That's why we were so hesitant of taking somebody else's name, because to take somebody else's name is to take their destiny. And we didn't want the destiny of these people.
No, not at all. Not whatsoever, Dr. Black. So let's go further, Dr. Black. So some people ask this question. You got to get it your whole life probably yourself. If we had such a mighty nation and all these kingdoms and all this science and math, how did we start to collapse? How did we get captured by these people, right? Well, we were here on the planet way longer than them.
Sure.
They came behind us.
Well,
how did that even happen, Dr. Black?
The ancestors answer that question in this book, and it was very, very disturbing and distressing for me, I must say. But they answered very carefully. And the ancestors say in this book, the reason we were enslaved is because when someone sounded the drum to warn us, most of us were not listening. In other words, we were off our own game. They did not slave us because they were stronger. They didn't enslave us because they were smarter. They did not enslave us because they had greater insight. It wasn't for any of those reasons. It was because we had breached the contract with our own cultural center, with our own spirit. Yeah. And when you do that, people can come in and take and conquer you and take over, because you and your own spirit now are not on one accord. Y'all are not at odds. And that's what happened. Again, they sounded the drum and some of us were like, I'm sick of these old drums, tired of listening to these old doggone drums. Okay. And you see what it cost us. You mentioned
they was hunting in abundance. They had an abundance of food. And they wasn't tending to the land as they should.
Right.
And
right.
They getting more lax on the rituals and the practices. The children not working. And you mentioned the downfall of children not working. And I paired that with today. Everything in the book, I love pairing with today and what we see the ramifications of what's going on right now. The generations right now and the downfalls. Like, man, it's just full circle.
Yeah.
Seeing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like
you said, the elders had the advice. They were whispering to us warning signs.
Absolutely, man.
We pretty much like, man, y'all know, y'all just talking, y'all just.
That's right. We dismissed them. We were like, all this elders talking and all these proverbs. Tired of hearing all of this. Okay. Anytime a people forsakes your own cultural center, you're inviting division. You are inviting fragmentation. And often it comes. I saw your book and there were so many tabs in your book. If you don't mind, I would love to know what's one of the things you tabbed and why.
That's the first time, Dr. Black, you get the question on my show, but I appreciate that, Professor. I appreciate that, right? No,
if I'm not out of order.
No, never. You could never be Dr. Black. So this had me on page 206. They were in a circle. They were huddled together in a circle.
Yes.
And the power was in the circle.
circle.
I think about today's time. You go in any city you want most times in the hood. You see what they call a cipher.
Right. Right.
Sometimes in hip hop, these guys in a circle and they taking turns rapping. They might be shooting some dice, might be playing cards. They might be just talking, shooting the breeze, smoking, talking, whatever, drinking. They're pouring libations. So I'm seeing the cultural connection, even though we're not formally taught this, the power of the circle. That really blew my mind, Dr. Black.
Yes.
Can you
Yes.
give us some more of the power of the circle, if you can?
Yes. The circle stands as the quintessential symbol. A circle is really the it's the cornerstone symbolic representation of who African people are and what African people stand for. It's African people's worldview, really symbolically, because the circle has no beginning, it has no ending. In other words, the circle has no individuality. The
Yes, sir.
circle encompasses all of us. It doesn't have notches for individual people. The circle is everybody combined, which is why this story is told from the standpoint of we, not I. There is no I in this book, if you noticed.
Yes, sir. There isn't.
Yeah, everything is
Exactly.
we. Because enslavement in the Middle Passage happened to a people, not a person.
Hmm. 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 Now, this is a question, Dr. Black. In my copy of the book, I have different iterations. There are no like chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3.
Right.
Is it continuous? Is that for a particular writing reason, Dr. Black?
Yes, because first generation Africans, or griots, as you're saying, it was true, would not have told stories in the form of modern day English and literature and books. Chapters, that's a Western form to tell a story in chapter form. First generation Africans, that would not have been their form. Right? They would have told a story, right, for the purpose of teaching and to teach a lesson. But that didn't mean that they didn't have coherence. Of course, they had coherence. But one of the ways I try to keep the stories kind of coherent in this one is, instead of chapters, I give you days that they count, right? And the days they count, right? Those days, in many ways, help to organize the story. Yeah.
Now, when you say that about the griot telling the story, I'm imagining the griot sitting with a circle of people around them telling the story.
Yes, I can see that.
I'm imagining that circle in my mind.
Yeah. I can absolutely see that, for sure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, back to that. Let's go to the musical side of the house, Dr. Black. Now, I know in your background, I saw some of your interviews.
Yes.
You have a strong musical from your little boy's background. So in this story, there was a lot of drums and humming, singing. It's a lot of music in this book. Tell us about. You have a gumbo, a mixture of people from different places.
Yes.
We can't speak the same language, but we can all get on the one. We can all get on the one accord with the drum.
Absolutely.
With the chains or whatever it is, we're making sound.
And there's no such thing. There is no such thing as a non-musical African people.
Huh.
There's no such thing.
No such thing.
No such thing as a non-musical African people. Now, it's not true that every single person in the village sang or every single person was a drummer. That's not true. But what is true is every single person would have heard the music and would know the music, and every single person has heard the drums. That's true. But see, the drums reverberate, if you will, beneath African consciousness, as really the drum is mimicking our heartbeat. Right? So the drum is as central to African culture as the heartbeat is to the human body. Right? That's that. I think that's very important to understand. And yes, I do have a musical background. I play the piano, all that. I'm a choir director, all of that. And also, I imagined our ancestors hearing music even in the belly of this ship. I imagine as the water is slapping the side of these big boats, that sounds musical to them. But I'm also imagining that they very. I'm also imagining that they turned these musical moments into symphonies of healing in the belly of these ships. That as the water is slapping against the side of these boats, I'm imagining that they hummed along, or they beat their heads on the planks they were laying on, or they used their fists and created. Because as long as African people can move, we're going to create sound.
Yes.
And if we can create sound, we're going to create rhythm. And if we can create rhythm, we're going to create healing. And if we can create, listen, don't start me.
No, do it. This is my show. Do it. This is what I called you for.
Listen.
This is what I called you for. Do it.
Yeah. If you give Black people any room at all, we're going to make and we'll make instruments out of anything. We'll make instruments out of. That's why folks said, we got to America, y'all can't have the drum. We're going to outlaw the drum. No problem. We'll use our very thighs. We'll call it ham bone. No problem. We'll stomp our feet on a wooden floor. No problem. Yeah. Because if you don't take our limbs away, we're going to create music.
Yeah. So you in the classroom, Dr. Black. You in the class, but more collegiate classroom. So it's kind of like highly frowned upon in college. But in the lower levels of education, that child that just sit there and they just on the desk, or they got their pencil or their pen on the desk, it's highly frowned upon. Teacher gonna fuss and holler, all of that stuff. But that comes from a place, from something.
Yes.
Something innately is making that child. You're not just doing it randomly.
Correct. That comes from a place. That's absolutely correct.
Even if they can't name it, they just doing it.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's absolutely true. It's just in them to do it. It's simply in them to do it. And again, as long as Black people exist, we're going to. I don't care where we are. We're going to create music. It's going to happen.
You're saying there's no coincidence that we dominate most of the musical world. Black and brown people dominate most genres.
Not only is it not a coincidence, it's part of our spiritual calling. It's part of our spiritual existence.
Yes, sir.
It's part of what it's part of what we were physically sent to this planet to do. Yeah.
So Miss Beyonce makes some country music and the whole world go crazy. She can't make country music. What do you mean Black folks making country music?
Right. Of course you can. Right.
You and your musical background. What's your thoughts on, in the genre? They say we can't touch. What you mean?
Let me tell you, I'm gonna say it this way. What most people sleep on is most European-dominated musical forms are beneath the complexity of Black music. In other words, Black people can sing country. Black people can sing opera. Black people can sing pop. Black people can sing rock. We've already proven all of that. But white people cannot sing gospel. Which is why gospel and Christian music are two different categories. Christian music is white people's gospel.
Oh.
Black people's religious music is called gospel. When white people sing it, it's called Christian music.
Now, education right there. I never heard that before in my life, Dr. Black. It makes sense, though. Makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because Black people have certain musical forms and Black people have such musical complexity that it's like Aretha could sing Celine Dion. Patti LaBelle can sing Barbra Streisand, but Barbra Streisand can't sing Patti LaBelle.
No, I'm not imagining that.
No, you don't mean that.
Not imagining that. No, sir, at all. No, sir. They are loving it in the comments, man. They say, come on with it, Dr. Black. Come on with it, run with it. They're loving it. They're loving it, right? I love combining the history with the contemporaries to make my audience understand. They always say, why you read so much history, Sean? That's a long time ago. That's way back hundreds. A lot of this stuff is still relevant in a different form right now. That's why I bring these things up and try to make it cohesive,
Absolutely.
Now, the next thing, Dr. Black, when they get here to the auction block,
Yes.
Slave auction block.
Yes.
I
Yes.
want to talk about the way that black and brown people look at ourselves as far as our body. What they call that body, your self-body image.
The body
Because
image.
we saw who they valued the most, literally, their
Yes.
monetary value on certain
Yes.
ones versus other people.
Yes.
We saw the attributes that they liked and what they didn't like, what they shunned, and we started internalizing that stuff. Talk about the auction block and what that did to our psychology
Sure.
when we
I think that's
encountered
a great,
people.
uh-huh.
That's
I think that's a
FUK.
great question, Brother Sean. I think that's a fantastic question.
I
Because
appreciate that.
I think the auction block, and I believe the auction block is really the defining moment when the African becomes the African American. Sean, I'm gonna have to get off this platform because
That's a black. Where you going, Doc?
I can't, man. I really believe that. I believe that. I believe that.
I've never heard that before. That moment.
That
The
moment. I think it's that moment because that's the moment at which African flesh becomes commodified.
Yeah.
It's the moment at which African flesh becomes a part of the capitalist structure, and now blackness is for sale.
Literally.
Literally. Africanness was never for sale, but now blackness is for sale. You can buy black, and not just not just black body. You can buy black desire. See, they weren't just buying those who they thought could work. They were buying those who they thought could pleasure them.
Yes. Come
Right?
on now.
They were buying bodies that could do labor, and they were buying bodies that they imagined could do pleasure. That's why they were looking at penises, and that's why they were looking at breasts and all this. Because let's be honest, if you just want somebody to work in your field, what difference does it make what size his penis is? What difference does that make? How's that relevant if you're just looking for work? If you're just looking for somebody to put to work, what difference does it make in terms of penis size? It's totally irrelevant.
No.
But what it shows is they were looking at penis sizes and all this because they were also buying black bodies for the very real possibility of white supremacist desirability.
Yes.
In other words, black bodies and black commodification become synonymous, right, with white imaginative pleasure. And the auction block sets this up because what the auction block does is it makes legal. In other words, Sean, the auction block is the first porn.
Yes. I love that.
That's the first porn. It's
the
legal.
first accent.
You can buy it. The bodies are naked. Come on. Come on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They're touching on them and they're prodding on them. And
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sean, they got our penises and our testicles in the middle of their hands.
No, Dr. Black.
They touching breasts. That's porn.
I wanted to go somewhere with this, Dr. Black. I wanted to go somewhere with this. Contemporary, Colin Kaepernick, ex-NFL quarterback, he said in the media years ago, he compared the NFL combine to the slave auction block. They're measuring us width to width. They're measuring us head to toe. They're poking and prying us. They're opening our mouths. They're touching on us. And it's for profit. These billionaires are doing it for profit.
Oh, absolutely.
And so people say, well, y'all getting paid. How could you call that slavery, modern day slavery? Y'all getting paid. Speak on that. Could you please, Dr. Black, about the comparison of what happened to these black bodies?
Well, see, I think what's happened is the commodification of the black body in America made white folks so rich and so sexually satisfied.
Yes.
That the physicality of blackness becomes the main means by which black people in America will carve out a living. In other words, if you're black in America, and if you will lend your body, the physicality of your body to American desirability, America will pay you for it. It's not just, it's sports. Yes, this is NFL, NBA, but it's also strip clubs. I'm going here. It's music videos.
Yes.
Yes.
Come on now.
If you will lend your body to the public imagination, America will pay you well for it. But if you want to lend your mind, America was not going to pay you.
Dr. Black, you going somewhere different now, man.
Listen.
You going somewhere different now,
listen,
Doc.
Listen, you got me on here, so listen, you done wound me up now, so I got listen.
They ain't gonna
pay you for that.
Now I would say this: you are the scholar. They won't pay you for that, Doc?
No, America's not.
You can't go and sell out a Jerry's place in Dallas, the little Cowboy Stadium.
See, and I mean, not comparatively speaking. Even if you got a professor who makes $200,000,
okay,
compare that to the NFL player who has no degrees at all, who makes $20 million.
Yes, sir.
You see?
So they show you where the value is. They show you.
Absolutely.
Show you where the value is.
Absolutely. And I want us to get very, very clear as Black people that even, and not just on the auction block, but even when they were capturing our ancestors in Africa, Sean, they didn't enslave everybody. They didn't take everybody out of Africa, Sean, and they didn't enslave every ethnic group. They took the ones who were aesthetically pleasing to them.
Wow.
They took the one with big booties.
Wait a minute, Doc. Wait a minute.
Sean, I'm gonna have to get off this play. I can't.
Don't leave. Wait, don't leave, Doc.
Sean,
I got a question.
Seriously.
So they took all these people.
The ones that they were attracted to.
Yes. So there were still pockets of people that was left.
That's right.
After that.
That's right.
And then they look around like, so do you start thinking to yourself like I wasn't worth taking?
And see, that's a deep thing too. Because
I don't know what that phenomenon is called in psychology. Like
I even thought about the psychology. Yes. I thought about the psychology of like if somebody gets up on the auction block and brings say $2,500.
Okay.
And then you step up on the auction block right behind them and they pay $500 for you.
Right.
What does it do to yourself? What's funny is you don't want to be sold at all. But but the conundrum and the dilemma is, but you want to be worth as much as anybody. Right?
But Dr. Black, this is all the questions I want to ask you. Did we understand their money value? Did we understand their money and their language? Like, could we tell? If it's 2,500, that's not with our currency.
Yeah. See, we had our own currency, right? So we understood how currency works. We certainly understood how currency works. Yeah, that wasn't new. What I do think that a lot of Africans struggle with is, but we did not understand, how do you translate spirit into cash?
And we still don't. No.
Like how you do that?
Still don't.
Yeah.
Don't they call it selling your soul when you finally like do certain things and you sold your soul?
Absolutely.
Like the exchange, right? Whew. That is heavy. That is heavy. Wow. Let's keep it going, Doctor. Oh no. Let's stay here for 1 second. So when it comes to body image issues, people gonna get all these facial surgeries and BBLs and every other kind of thing out there. What's your thoughts about that? When it comes to our Black and brown people that just feel the need to keep on.
We're suffering from this because, Brother Sean, I argue that part of the reason relationships are so difficult to maintain in the Black community, and quite frankly, that many relationships are hard to find, period. Relationships are harder to maintain among Black people than other ethnic groups in this country.
Really?
But it's because most of us think we're ugly.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on now. You're going somewhere different now.
In terms of our aesthetic desirability. And most of us are looking for the cutest person. In other words, most of us are looking for the one who would bring the highest price on the auction block. That's who we want. Because association with them gives you worth. See, for most Black people, if you have 100 people, and if you say, how many people out of 100 are fine? How many of these women are fine? I would dare say most Black people are going to say 30, 20. Okay. We're not going to say 80 out of 100. We're not going to say that. But not to say that means then that all the rest of the folks are going to be desperately seeking the applause of the 10% that all of us think are fine.
Yeah.
Which means 80% of people are all hoping for the 10%.
Whew, look at that mathematics.
Exactly. Mathematically, that's not going to work out.
Look at that.
So you have most people single, which is what we have.
No. Now, Dr. Black, I had an actual expert genealogist on the show last week, and we spoke on what's going on now, a recent phenomenon. The super athletes of our generation from back in the day, they're purposely breeding today's pro athletes. It's not about love and you so cute and I love you so much. It's I'm an athlete and you're a woman that's 6'2", you play volleyball or something. And we get together on purpose and we're making the super athlete of today. What's your thoughts about that? Because the ocean, they had slave breeding camps back then, but now we're doing it to ourselves now.
I don't know much about this contemporarily, right? And that's not true. That like a 6'6" basketball player is looking for a 6 foot, but
it's a thing, Doc. It's a thing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't know much about that. I'm definitely going to check that out.
Because you look at some of the recent Super Bowl players, for example.
Now, here's the thing. If it were true, right? And I'm going to run with it. If it's true, the question becomes why.
Profit.
Yeah.
Capitalism. Back to that.
Yeah. It's the same thing.
Yeah. You know, if you follow sports or not, I don't know. But LeVar Ball is an example. He got his 3 sons. They all play basketball.
Right.
He says it all the time on camera. I felt their mama for a reason. It wasn't about love and she's so good to me. It was about we making these 3 boys and they're going to be in the NBA, in which they did. So, I mean, so they're playing with the science. Like breeding horses or breeding dogs. I'm going to make some more Rottweilers and we're going to go to the dog and pony show.
Right.
That'd be in NFL, NBA. See?
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah, it's getting interesting out here, Doc.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. It absolutely is. Go ahead, please.
I'm sorry. I had a question about back to our downfall and the collapse. Speak about the traitors amongst us. The ones amongst us that was always willing to give up the secrets and the tales and
like Frank.
Yes, sir. Speak about that because that always exists. And when I studied the Black Power movement, I studied the Civil Rights movement, there were always those infiltrators inside the camp.
Always.
These things happen,
because there are always people who are trying to figure out how to negotiate bondage. Meaning, how do you benefit from limitation? How do you benefit from oppression? There are people, folks who are born into oppression, their imagination is also oppressed. When your imagination is oppressed, everything you conceive of, every hope, every possibility is conceived in the boundaries of that same limitation. So these people, and we hear this all the time. I'm just gonna play the game long enough, to go in there and get my money. The minute you start playing the game, it's playing you.
It's over.
It's playing you. Even while you think you're playing it, it's playing you. And here's why. The creators of the game get the right to change the rules at will. Because it's their game and they made it.
Anytime they want.
So the second you get in the game because you think you know the rules, they simply change them. So get out of these people's game. But see, the problem, Sean, is that we're so in love with materiality now. We so in love with material, and we want the same kind of material life that our oppressors have. And we can't imagine how to get it without playing the game. But see, what we got to realize is get out the game. Materiality is not to be equated with quality of life.
No, it's not.
No. And what we got to get out of this materiality. Then we can get into some real analysis and we can give people back their lifestyles. We can give people back their ideologies. We can give people back their worldview. And I'm going to say this, and we can give people back their God.
Give them back their God. Wow. Back their God.
Because as long as you serve your enemy's God, you are volunteering your own enslavement because your enemy's God believes in your oppression.
So you can't pray to the same God, right? You can't pray for the same.
But ironically, the scriptures say that you can't serve two masters.
Right. So I'm praying to get free. He praying to keep me. And both
to
of
the
us,
same God. If he's praying to keep me and I'm praying to get free, and both of us are praying to the same God
simultaneously,
that God don't love one of us.
Jeez. That's deep, Doc. That's deep, Doc. So before we get out of here, Dr. Black, I'm gonna be conscious of your time, man. After all this is being said, what's your thoughts on the reparations conversation? I know that Harvard University last year admitted their role with slavery. I think Yale did it recently. Other schools are slowly doing it. So on a public front, they're admitting their part in the slave trade and their benefit from it. Do you see reparations happening in this lifetime? Reparations.
I don't know that I see reparations happening. I'm not sure I see reparations. I believe in reparations because I think culturally and I think institutionally, America has absolutely undermined the Black community. I think it has absolutely undermined, the Black community economically, politically. We know it did in terms of the vote, but it did in every way conceivable. And I think America owes Black people. I'm not sure it's ever going to pay it, but I am going to say this: whether it does or not, we can't wait on what we think of as reparations as the catalyst for, or as the seeds of Black communal transformation, because then that would mean that actually the same people who brought you here, if you will, gave you the spark for your revolution. So for me, we've got to be clear that we've got to free ourselves without white people's help, without white people's intervention, without white people's applause, without white people's approval, without white people's money.
Yes, sir.
The same thing we did when we came out of slavery. Listen, we left slavery and built churches and built schools.
Yes.
And we didn't have no real money or real wealth then. Then we can do it again.
Yes, sir.
If we can get out of the mentality of loving white materiality so much that we feel like we have to have exactly what they have. Our houses have to look like their houses. Our kids got to go to their schools. If we can get out of that, we could get free.
Dr. Black, what's your thoughts on integration? Based on what you just said. And you the OG. You the OG.
No, sir. I'm no, sir.
You ain't gonna touch it? You ain't gonna touch it?
I absolutely love and I honor and I bow before the ancestors of the civil rights era.
Yes.
I really, really do, because they gave their lives for us, and they fought so hard for our social and our culture and our spiritual, our political evolution.
Yes, sir.
However, in hindsight, I think integration was a bad idea.
Yes, sir.
But I don't think it's a bad idea because integration is a bad idea. I think integration was a bad idea because white people didn't have the moral fortitude to do it.
No.
They didn't have the character to share. So without that, integration can't work if only one of us wants it.
Yes. Yes.
White people didn't want integration. And they didn't have the moral character to do it.
No. That's paperwork. The paperwork. Paperwork. So Dr. Black, you from the South, being raised. Did you attend any segregated schools yourself?
Oh, no. See, I went to school in the 70s.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, my parents went to segregated. I was the first generation to go to segregated school.
Okay.
Integrated schools. My parents went to segregated school. My grandparents went to segregated school. And I might be willing to bet that segregated school children actually did better academically.
Yeah. That was my question, because whenever I talk to my elders, a lot of times they all tell me, I'm in Louisiana, by the way. They all tell me they had a better education in segregation.
Yeah.
All of them. I've never heard one person say, Sean, integration was better. I've never heard that comment one time.
Yeah.
I've been asking for years.
Yeah, same here. I've never heard any Black people say it did us well. I've not heard it.
I've not heard that statement. Well, I don't want to keep your time, Dr. Black. Thank you for coming to the show. This has been about becoming. Go out there and get it. Get the audio book, get the physical, whatever you need, man. Take it. Dr. Black, thank you so much for saying yes.
I honor you.
I welcome you. Hope it's not the last time, Dr. Black.
Absolutely. Thanks, y'all.
Thank y'all to the chat. Amazing chat. Thank y'all.
Take care.
All right now.